Hi, this is Carrie with the Canary Quilts, and I'm working on the Dear Jane Quilting, and we are on to the borders. And this week I'm working on the right side border and the top right corner. So if you missed last week's video, I show you how to do the solid triangles. I will have that link in the description down below if you want to find that. But today I'm just going to be doing the right side borders, blocks, and the right top corner. So to find these blocks, I'm using EQ8, and to find these blocks, I'm opening the DJ5 Quilting Blocks Master because I'm not making any changes. I'm opening the sketchbook, and you'll find all the blocks under the quilt section of the sketchbook. And I have gone all the way, I have scrolled to the right until I find the right side one triangle. So that's where I start, and I look at the block, and then I go over to, I look at the block in EQ8, and then I go over to my block on my table, and I start interpreting and putting the lines in so that I can quilt them later. So in some of these blocks, as you might have seen in the last video, I modified them in the sense that some of them didn't have symmetrical lines, or some of them had lines that I didn't quite want to do or didn't feel it needed. And then some of them I felt needed more quilting, so I added some lines. And I'm going to do that this week also. I pretty much run through, you'll be able to see me mark these up, and then you'll see me quilt them. And if I make any changes, I jump in and let you know what kind of changes I've made. I do not quilt through my applique, and that's just a personal choice for me. I just quilt around it. So it's pretty fun to do. I'm finding the border blocks to be a bit more challenging. So I'm starting and stopping within each border block instead of trying to figure a way out in and out of the blocks. That's the biggest difference, one of the biggest differences from the center blocks. So hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to see how this turns out. I do have a Dear Jane playlist from beginning to now if you want to get started. And let's head down to my sewing table and we'll get these marked and quilted. We are doing top right corner, which is this one, and the right side border, which is for me right here. The corner we did last time is at the end of this border. So we're doing top right corner, right border, which you probably knew from the beginning. But anyway, whew, there is a lot in this one. Let me look. I am not going to quilt inside of my two appliques, which she does. So what we have is we have a bunch of lines out here, and we have echo quilting of the star in here. So I'm just going to do some echo quilting lines. In some of these spots she has two. I think I'm only going to do one, like that. And then inside of these, I know that with these outside squares we have center lines, so I'm going to start there. And then we have 3/4 of an inch. I think 3/8 of an inch would be right in the middle. So I'll do that. And then in the flying geese here, we have a line that matches with these points, and then a line above it. So if I do 3/8 of an inch, it'll match the other sides too. So let's do that. So these outer sections they have lines, and it basically lines up with this. So I'm going to start there. Do a line here and here, and then I think I'll go every 1/2 inch
That's pretty cool. I guessed at that, and I made it down to that point so we can go all the way across. All right, that works. I think down here I am just going to echo quilt. Like that. She's got a few other lines. I think it'll look fine just echo quilting it like that. Let's move on. I'm just gonna do it. If I need to tell you any of my measurements, I will. So let's hit it. Alright, she has lines coming through here and I can't fit, they're not even straight in hers. So I think what I'm going to do is do straight up and down lines like this, right through those triangles. Let's do them over here too. There we go. That's what I'm going to do. Instead of doing uneven lines on a slant, I'm going to go straight up and down. This is just stitch in the ditch. Both ways, so I'm not even going to mark that. This is all applique, so I'm not going to mark this either. I am just going to go right around all my applique. This is all applique, so I'm just going to go around my applique. Same with this one, all applique. I'm just going to go around it. I am changing this up and I'm going to echo quilt in here. So these lines I just brought out through the middle of here, and then this line I started in the middle and did a 1/2 inch, and then I kind of looked at where the middle was here and came up to these seam corners and then did a 1/2 inch starting right there at the top. So I went through the middle of these, and then starting right here, I went 1/4 inch from that seam all the way down. This is applique, and I'm not going to go through it. I think what I'll do is try to stitch in the ditch here because there's no stitching out there, and then there are lines inside of here. And I think I'll go every 1/4 inch. And there we go. Lines inside here, stitch around my applique and stitch in the ditch and the curves. Alright, so the way that I did this down here is I just judged where that corner was. Same here. And then drew my lines. So there's no quilting above here that I can see, so I think what I'll do is quilt inside of here. Come up here and quilt inside of there. These are applique. I'm not going to go through them. I'm going to go over them. And I mean over them, next to them. All right, it's marked. Let's see how I do on this side. Whoo-wee. There we go. Right side border is done. Again, much different than the center blocks. It's a little more difficult, I would say. I'll be glad when it's done. I'm glad there's only 4 borders. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just ready to be done with it. Could be. That could be the psychology behind all this. I could just be ready to be done with the quilt and start binding it, which I've never bound a scalloped quilt before, so that's gonna be new for me. Let me know if you've bound a scallop quilt, scalloped edge quilt here. I think it'll just be different. So since I quilted, since you saw me quilting and ironing, my son called me, and while I was talking to him on the phone, I went all the way around the edges and quilted in between all the triangles. So that is done. So I did do that. So in future blocks, you will see the quilting on the edge. I like it. It makes it stand out better. Looks so much better when these lines are ironed off. Didn't do that one. Didn't do that one. Did this one. All right, we're at the end here. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to see how this turns out. If you're doing Dear Jane, I have a whole Dear Jane playlist, whole bunch of videos, all the blocks and everything, so you can check that out. And I am going to just go crazy when I'm done with this. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go crazy making quilts. But anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.